Coming at you live from the internet, it's Malignant Bear, featuring yours truly, JD Grossmitz, on the microphone. I need to get a better intro. Anyway, hi everybody. Today we're playing PowerWash Simulator. This is it's a video game. It's, for some reason, one of the members of the band recommended that I check this out, and I kind of laughed him off for a while, and then finally decided to actually do it. And now I'm mad at him because after I purchased it, I ended up 100%ing all the content in it in like 2 days. This game is incredibly addictive, despite it being very simplistic. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the game itself, and we'll show some things of it. But for the most part, I just wanted something that was kind of a nice background game while I talk about sort of last year of streaming. So we streamed for the entirety of 2021 and had our streamiversary and everything, and we put out a nice little video on that. It's pretty short though, so I wanted to sort of elaborate on some more things with that, and I figured this game was the good opportunity for that. So that's what we're using this for, and we'll have as background music for this because just hearing PowerWash Simulator would be a little annoying. We will be listening to Sessions. This is a music series created by Riot Games, the developers behind League of Legends and actually some other games nowadays, which is crazy. And they made, what is it? It's like stream safe music, and it's basically just some lo-fi beats. I don't play League, I haven't in years. I don't hate myself that much, no offense to anyone who does enjoy it, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's good music, and it's stream safe, and it's a decently long playlist, so I figured that would be good. But in general, this stream and this week's streams are going to be a little bit shorter, just because I'm kind of busy this week with some other things, but I still wanted to start off the new year right with this. So, without too much further ado, let's go ahead and jump on in. So we'll get the music started up. It helps if we unmute the audio and stream. So this is PowerWash Simulator. So like I said, we'll talk about this for a little bit. And the link to Sessions is in the video description if anybody's curious about this. We're listening to Sessions V. Of course, she's one of the main characters in Arcane that just came out not too long ago to rave reviews. I haven't watched it yet, but it's on my list. But here's PowerWash Simulator. It is exactly what it says it is. You have a power washer, and you clean things. And when you clean things, you get money for it, and you use that money to upgrade your power washer. There's a full career mode with a whole bunch of different things that you can do, and you can see how much money you earn from it. And there's a nice variety of things as well. The game keeps it interesting and fun and fresh with the types of things that you end up having to clean, which I thought was cool. And there's even little story elements, which is weird. Like you get little messages as you're cleaning from various characters, and you'll get jobs from similar characters. And you know, you can hear about them referring you and things like that. And there's even like some meta elements going on of like corruption in the town and the mayor's lost cat that'll show up on some levels. And this game is better than it has any right to be. Because usually when you hear simulator games, it's other than like the big ones like Farm Sim and Train Simulator, they're just kind of jank and terrible. This one is actually competent and fun, and it's no wonder that it was actually picked up by a major publisher. So, oh, the music stopped already. That's no good. I believe in you, YouTube. So we're just playing this off YouTube. I have so many tabs and windows open right now. Okay, but anyway, yeah. So you start off with basic things like, you know, clean the van or the house or the back garden. The playground, that's the one that we're going to do today because it's early on and it's fun. And it's so bright and colorful, that's why I wanted to do it. But you get some interesting things here. You know, the fire truck, the tree house. This one was terrible. It took several hours. The carousel. And this one also took a while, the Ferris wheel, because it's moving as well, and you had to keep it moving to clean better. But the game also has multiplayer, there's challenge modes, and a special level, there's only one so far, where you have to clean the Mars rover, which I thought was kind of neat. So, I'm going to do free play of a playground. Game's very simplistic. You can see there's not many controls or anything here. The game is in early access, as it says. This is the beta of it. But you have various power washers, so I have the highest level one at the moment equipped. Various extensions for them. And the extensions that you use and the nozzles that you use determine your water pressure and how far it goes and the reach of it and everything. So there's like a slight strategy element to this as well, which is odd. So like I can, you know, I can pick the extra long extension, and again it's a little imbalanced because I have the highest level, you know, the strongest pressure washer, or power washer rather, and I can do this. But when you're low level and you have the weakest one, you can't. Like when you do this the first time and you just have the basic, and you might have this if you're lucky, like you can't really reach up there. So we'll be going a little bit faster than we would the first time that I did this. I'll go with that. There's even cleaning liquids you can buy that give you advantages towards specific messes. Yeah. Anyway, this game, like I said in the description, it triggers some just primal urge, because you can see things are getting clean, and that's satisfying. There's no mechanic where it's like, you know, using too high of pressure will destroy things or anything like that. They haven't added that. I don't know if they will. It would be realistic if they did. And the game also makes fun of the fact that it's power washing implies hot water, and so this is actually just pressure washing. And at one point, one of the characters in the game tells you that, which I thought was funny. But in real cleaning, you always want to start at the top and work your way down, just because dirt will fall down. It doesn't matter in this game. Again, that's not a mechanic, but we want to do this right, you know. We want to make sure we get hired on to clean more messes around town. They're adding more stuff to the game as it goes. Like I said, early access. But yeah, this is it. This is clean and serious. Here's to a clean new year. Why did they make this, and why did I buy it? Just look at this. Oh my goodness. My biggest complaint with the game is ladders. I guess we'll talk about that before we talk about other stuff. But they're jank. They're hard to walk up. Sometimes you'll just like fly off the side of them. Let's clean that. I'm looking at it. And you can see there's a little progress bar, and it shows you what type of material you're cleaning and everything up in the top left. You don't have to worry about water usage, at least in the main game. Some of the challenges, you do have metered water, but by default, that's not a concern. But yeah, that's PowerWash Simulator. It really is that simple. But like I said, I picked this game because I wanted to just sort of ramble about some other things, which I'm good at anyways. But you know, I don't plan these streams out very much. I mean, we do. Like, planning goes into what I'm going to play and when. And sometimes I have some rough ideas of what I want to talk about, depending on what we're playing, or if there's like, you know, new games come out or something. Like the Game Awards, I wanted to touch on that a little bit a couple weeks ago. But for the most part, I just sort of go in blind and freeform. And I like that, it keeps it fun. Even with the videos, when I record those are all, pretty much all, done in a single take with little to no editing. Partly just as a sort of, because of time constraints, I don't have the time at the moment to really, you know, go deep with the editing on them. So I just have to make sure that they're good enough, I guess. Which I know sounds incredibly lazy, and I should always strive to be better, but There are limits to that. But we do want to strive to be better in the upcoming year. So I touched on that a little bit in the game of the year, in my game of the year reviews and sort of channel recap. But let's recap the year first. So we've been streaming for a full year, which is cool. More than a full year at this point, like a year and a week or so, which is great. Who would have thought? Our giant glam rock band based out of Liechtenstein making content that's not music at all. Sometimes it is. But yeah, this has been, as I mentioned, this is a fun little side project. Me and several of the other members of the band enjoy gaming in our free time, and I decided to do something with the YouTube channel that we've had for a long time and never did anything with, and thought, why not, try streaming, see what that's about. I've watched some streamers in my time and enjoy their content, and I was always kind of curious as to what went into that and how they do it and everything. So this was it's been a nice learning experience for that. I have a lot of respect for the amount of work they put into it. I know I've said some potentially disparaging things of streamers in the past, but I do respect the amount of work they put into it, and they certainly, they earn their pay. They are entertainers, first and foremost. Of course, it can seem nice and easy because they're doing something entertaining. They're playing games, and then people watch them, and then sometimes give them money for playing games or doing other things. There's a whole bunch of different things you can do on stream now. There's a lot opening up there. But yeah, I mean, work does go into that. But I've mentioned before, some streamers, like we saw with the Twitch leak, make just an absolute boatload of money. And as much as they, do deserve that, for casual viewers, especially viewers who themselves maybe don't have a lot of money, that is worth keeping in mind. I mentioned that in a stream when that leak came out, and wanted to clarify that streamers, for sure, this can be a job for them. But if you don't have the means to support them financially, don't feel pressured to do that. Your viewership is a lot of support for a lot of them. Just knowing that they have an audience is nice. And a lot of them will just tell you that, especially, the good ones who are doing it for the right reasons. There's some people who stream exclusively for the money, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. You need money to live, that makes sense. But I'm of the opinion that anything that's entertainment, you should be doing because you enjoy it. And if you get paid out of it, that's a nice bonus. Because with entertainment, it's not just about you then. And I think people can pick up on that when you're only in something for the paycheck. People joke all the time about good actors doing bad movies just because they need a paycheck or had to fulfill a contract. That's absolutely a thing, and people for sure notice that with streamers as well. When you're not having it, or you're just like demanding, donations and all that stuff, I don't think that's a good look. But again, just me. Like I said, this is just sort of rambling. Some thoughts about stuff and, the year and streaming in general. Of course, we can't talk about the year that much because of like real life things, and YouTube doesn't like that. They do have filters that find that and all that, which is fascinating. Technology is frightening. But, you know, everybody knows. Yeah, you can jump and crouch and even go prone in this. So I think this is... I mean, I know this is supposed to be done with the ladder, which is over here. You can also sprint, too. Gotta go fast. But yeah, as far as money goes, I know early on, especially when we were just figuring things out, we mentioned monetization and like playing it safe and stuff in streams, and obviously we're not anywhere close to that, and you know, might never be. But it's I did that partly because I was learning how things worked, and partly because it's just kind of a good idea to keep those things in mind in case it ever comes up, and because the guidelines for it are sort of a good idea. Some of the things that YouTube doesn't like and can and will demonetize you for make sense. Like you want your content to be ideally accessible and inoffensive as much as possible. Like without getting into, you know, any of the politics of like offending people or anything like that. It's just a good idea. You want your viewers to be able to tune in and be entertained, not, you know, revolted at something you said or did. And the monetization policies, or the things that you have to follow to get that, roughly adhere to that. So it's just kind of a good idea to keep in mind in general. Look at this, look how clean this is getting. So you can hold tab and you can see where the dirt is. There's a lot of it. But it's also very bright and clean, so you can see where the dirt is versus what it looks like. And there's like, you know, wetness mechanics a little bit. You can see when stuff dries and all that. Again, this game's just, it's better than it has any right to be. We've played a few games like that in the past year. I've played a lot of games in the past year. But ones that I was especially shocked by, even if we didn't cover them on stream, I did videos of. Like Hedon, for example, you know, made my Game of the Year list. And several other people in the band are actually playing it now and are equally impressed as I am. When I first saw it, I just assumed that it was a dev's kind of excuse to get more fan art of their OC. Which, you know, I'm all for. You do you, that's great. And was very pleasantly surprised to see it be a not just competent game, but a very good one. And that was why I put out a video on it. I think videos are interesting, and they're a little harder, at least for me, than streaming content, because with streaming content, you can just go. You can just ramble like I'm doing this entire time. But with video content, you have to try to make it concise. And again, part of that is due to YouTube and the algorithm and being found and all that. People don't want to watch really long form videos. So you have to try to get your point across relatively quickly, which I sometimes struggle with. And it's even harder without, again, without editing. Which is, of course, something that I could do, but didn't ding. I don't get it. When you get closer towards the end, it'll tell you how much stuff you have left to do. But yeah, I think I've gotten better at getting my point across in videos, I think. I've actually recorded a number of them to have in reserve in the event that I possibly can't stream for a little bit. So I took some breaks from streaming around the holidays, and I thought that was a fine idea, and decided to have some more content prepared in case that happens again for whatever reason. So of course the downside of recording videos, and especially for some of the games that I recorded them for, is that they could update and change. So the videos might not be relevant, but you can always put, recorded dates on them and kind of specify, what version you're playing or when. So people might still get some use out of them, some enjoyment maybe. And again, that's the whole point of this. This has been a fun learning experience for me, again, as I've said. I see. There's a bunch of stuff in here. I wonder, can I? I can. Okay. No, I could have just walked up there the whole time. So in some levels you get a nice little ladder and a step stool. And some of the bigger ones you actually get a full-blown, scaffold that you can move around, which I didn't realize the first time I saw it. I thought it was just part of the level and ignored it because it wasn't dirty. Not realizing that it was there to help me. How much more colorful this is. I wanted to do a colorful level for this. I thought that was a good idea. So I was torn between this and maybe some of the fairground ones, but those are a little bit too involved. Like I said, I want this to be relatively short if possible. Like an hour or so. Yeah, we, as far as kind of lessons learned last year, other than the ones that we already talked about, audio is hard. Audio is really hard. And I knew a little bit of that from being in a band. But you have people that do that for you, It's not usually something I have to do myself. And because this is just sort of a fun passion project, I didn't want to rope anybody else into my mess, or at least not for an extended period of time. So obviously I consult regularly with the other band members, but it's not like, hey, come over and take a look at my setup and let's work through this and blah blah blah. Like, no, I can figure it out. It takes me a while sometimes. And then sometimes there's just issues that no amount of tech support can do. I've touched on in the past that I know my setup is less than ideal. I had a nice condenser mic, but it was still a condenser mic, so it picked up literally everything. Whereas this is a dynamic mic. It's still USB, just because I didn't want to have to mess with an audio interface. but it's a lot cleaner sound for sure. And there's always things that we can improve with that as well. Even in terms of footage. So I output to YouTube in 1080p 60. I am playing this on my computer though in 1440p, and I have this locked to 60, but for the most part I have games locked to 144 because my computer is strong enough to handle it, and I want things to, you know, look good and run at high refresh rates as I'm playing them. And for a lot of games, it's fine. YouTube handles that kind of compression and downgrade nicely. But for others, I recognize after the fact, and sometimes even during it, that it's like, oh geez, this didn't go the way I wanted it to. And that's been a learning experience as well, to have to get used to that. Of course, it's natural. There's going to be some compression and changes when you're streaming. That happens even with the internet I have. I think I've mentioned before, I have fiber internet, and it's quite good. But there's just natural compression and loss with streaming. So, and there's times that, you know, you just have to kind of deal with it, unfortunately. I also have the disadvantage of having an AMD card. And AMD they've gotten significantly better, but they are still lagging far behind in terms of their software and drivers, and especially when it comes to streaming. So I don't have access to something like RTX Voice or, you know, any of their editing software or anything like that, any of their game capture. All of the encoding is done with my processor rather than the video card because of that. And it's a very nice processor. I have an overclocked 10th gen i7, so it can handle it, but I'm well aware that, you know, an upgrade in terms of video card would be nice at some point. Not that this one's a slouch, but it's a 6700 XT. It's most come into play with VR. And I mentioned that in the yearly or year recap thing, that I wanted to do Half-Life Alyx as the streamiversary, and ran into some issues with that. It runs perfectly fine on my end. Streaming it though and capturing footage from it is very difficult, because for it to run fine on my end takes a lot of my computer's processing power, and you need it to run fine because it's VR. If VR is not running at high resolutions and high frame rates, the odds of you getting, you know, motion sick or having issues with it are much higher. So it's a balancing act to do that. And it's made slightly worse because the headset I have is so high resolution that it has to push out a lot more to meet those demands. And then it's further compounded by the fact that the headset I have runs off the Windows mixed reality portal. So it's rendering the game several times, both in that view and in the headset, and then in the actual game window that I need to capture. So there's some issues there, and I need to figure some more things out with that. I've tried a bunch of different things and just been a little frustrated with it. And in general though, VR is one of those things that you have to experience rather than see. So I don't feel super terrible about not being able to stream in VR, but I would still like that option. And I think what it might come down to is just having to record videos of VR content as we did with Phasmophobia. Which is fine, but again, part of that learning experience. This music's pretty good, I like it. I like lo-fi. It's very chill. I know it's funny coming from a glam rock band, but listen to pretty much anything. I don't like to constrain myself to single genres, if that wasn't obvious from all of the various different types of games that we've played over the past year. I know we've played a ton of Metroidvanias, but I think the channel kind of speaks for itself that I will try pretty much anything. And there's even things that we tried and even recorded that didn't see the light of day for various reasons. You know, bad footage or poor gameplay and mistakes like that, stream crashing or internet going out. Things happen. Of course, I'm aware that being a variety streamer makes it harder for you to kind of find a following, especially with how little I do in terms of outreach and networking and all that. Hardly any at all. I know I need to improve on that. Again, it's, as I mentioned in the recap, it's hard as a part-time streamer. It's one of those things where I know the improvements that I can make and should make. And part of it is down to it's tricky in terms of time. And then part of it is down to because I don't have the full time to devote to it, I feel odd roping others in, if that makes any sense. It's I would love to commission, more artwork and things, and I talked about even having, maybe a VTuber model, because I think that's pretty cool. But even with paying for those things, because you pay for things that you commission, I would still feel bad to commission something and then not use it all that much. So again, the not wanting to rope others into my technical difficulties for something that's casual. I don't want to have, even though I'd be paying a creator, I would feel bad about having them do a lot of work and then it not be seen, regardless of the money involved. And that's just my personal opinion on that. Again, as sort of content creators ourselves, that's just how I feel on that. So clean. Let me get a drink. But yeah, there's all sorts of ideas and things that I have and want to do. And time is one of the biggest kind of hindrances to that. We've been a band for a while, and I have lots of ideas and things tied into that. But the reality is that, again, you have to make money. And the amount of time that I would need to do things full-time like to do this full time and all that, to fully realize some of the ideas that I have would require a big risk. And sometimes you have to do that. But as I've mentioned, all the band members, we have full careers as well. So there is a balancing act to be had. That's not the fun answer, but it's the realistic one. As much as I would love to do this full-time and devote the attention into it to, make really good content and learn all of the other things that I need to, and to make all those connections and everything, without like a guarantee or support or backing, I think it's not feasible for me. So I respect, absolutely, the people who do make that jump. Because it is frightening. It is a big jump. Which means I also understand why some of them feel the need to, ask for donations as they stream, and do, potentially iffy sponsorships and all that. If everybody knows the infamous picture of Jeff Keighley with the Doritos and Mountain Dew, you have to do those things sometimes to follow your passions. And I would never, as much as I hate, that sometimes you shell out, I understand it. Clean the underside of things. This is a fairly early level, and it's very involved, and it gets even more so later, like on the Ferris wheel level, which is the last one in the game at the moment. You have to clean individual nuts and bolts on each individual car. It is just ridiculously in depth. Again, this game is better and more detailed than it could have or should have been, probably. But yeah, there's things I want to do, and I hate to sound like I'm just making excuses for why they haven't been done. But it's just realities. And I thought it was important to address that and kind of touch base. This is fun and enjoyable, and I would love to be able to do more of this, but I also understand the reality of it. But even with that, of course, I have, I've spent money on this, and I'm fine with that. I would do it again. I was dissatisfied with my audio quality, so I bought a better mic. Or when I got the artwork and some of the songs that we use, I commissioned those and paid for them, even though it was from friends, because they should be fairly compensated for their work. Counts both? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so clean. So when you do these levels in the campaign, you have people talking to you the whole time, telling you, why they want this cleaned and all that. and mentioning things about the town and, you know, some of the other jobs you've done and some of the other characters. Again, the game has some flair and some love put into it, for sure. And I have to respect that, I always do. I've talked about that before, that even with some of the games that I've played that I haven't liked, you can tell when a creator has put attention and love into something. Even if the end result isn't, you know, as good as it could be or as you want it to be, you should always recognize effort. Of course, that gets a little... I was trying to think of a good way to segue into this and say this. It gets a little trickier, though, when it comes to games that are... I want to talk about Battlefield. I'm trying to think of a good and clever way to segue into that. Because at the same time as you should, you know, respect effort, there comes a point where you also have to acknowledge just problematic games as well. There was a lot of issues with Battlefield, and there has been for a while. I used to love Battlefield, and DICE has unfortunately dropped the ball more often than not as of late. And I'm talking about, like, core things like, you know, the gameplay and server issues and long-term support and, you know, monetization and bugs and all that. I don't care about those other things that some people have issues with. I don't understand those arguments. I'm talking about just pure functioning games. Then that bothers me. And I think it bothers me more because I think that they're... Like, I hope and think that there are still people there who do really care about what they're doing and want to do the best job and aren't just, you know, resume padding. And I think that's true for a lot of kind of big studios and even small ones. You have to wonder sometimes what the issue might be. Is it publisher interference? Is it, you know, engine problems? Lack of time? Lack of talent? What might the issue be there? A lot of repetitive motions in this game. Ugh. Very chill, especially with this music, my goodness. When I played through these previously, I just had streams and Netflix and stuff on. Made it go by pretty quick. Took about 20 hours to 100% this game. Or at least as it is now. So definitely get your money's worth here. Played a lot of very good indie games on stream, though. And this, despite all my joking about it, does join that list as well. I think indie devs is where a lot of the kind of passion and innovation is these days. Yeah, there's still good, like, AAA games, for sure. But I think for things that are interesting and enjoyable for me, I have found a lot more success, from indie developers. Them being cheaper also doesn't hurt. Especially now with a lot of AAA devs wanting to go hard and charge like $70 or $80 for a game. I see you, Square Enix. Despite the fact that you published this one. And I get it. Game development costs have gone up significantly. So have microtransactions and all sorts of other things. I could forgive higher priced games, like higher base price games, if there wasn't also other things going on with them. Yeah. I'm just absolutely rambling. But anyway, as far as games we did play, I feel like I started on that at some point and then just fell off it. Played a ton of them last year. Just an absolute ton. It's the most games I've played in a long time. Which was nice. I got to clear out some of my backlog and experience all sorts of really cool and fun things. It's part of why we don't play, like, kind of the streamer bait games, or, you know, like the big shooters and stuff like that, you know, multiplayer games that you can conceivably play forever. Because I think it's more fun checking out a wide variety of things. Just seeing what's out there, you know. Having new experiences. Like, you wouldn't watch the same TV show forever. I mean, some people for sure do. Especially people that watch The Office. So, you know, why not try out some other games? That step stool, yeah. There it is. It must be dirt outside that's counting. Or no, oh, the underside. I guess that would count as well. Right? Yeah. Yeah, okay, it's just all generic tower. See, I'm screwed up now because later on this would be counted as, like, separate things in some of the higher levels. Apologize if the keyboard noises are breaking the vibe of this. A loud mechanical keyboard. Cherry red switches. Mentioned before, my entire setup is in the channel description. It's a PC part picker list. If anyone is curious as to what I run with. Should be up to date. I couldn't find a way to add VR headsets and microphones to it, so it's about as up to date as it's gonna get. Alright. So that's all that stuff, so we can clean the dinosaur. These benches and trash cans and stuff. But yeah, so my Game of the Year's picks, I had 5 on there. And like I said, we do that donkey style, where it's just games that I played and the rest of the band played in that year, It didn't have to be games that came out that year. And I think that's the way to do it. Because, you know, sometimes you just don't get to games for a while. Or sometimes there just weren't any current year games that really jumped out at you. That happens. Nothing wrong with that. And Neo 2 was the early and obvious favorite. I love Dark Souls. The original Dark Souls is probably my favorite game of all time. And Neo gets pretty close to that. It might even top it, the more I think about it. And the only way that Dark Souls would stay there is just because of its sort of legacy, and that it allowed games like Neo to exist. So I like that Souls games are inherently just kind of 3D Metroidvanias. You know, you have the action combat, you go around and you have various shortcuts and things, and you find new items and all that to unlock new areas and fight new bosses and progress further. It just works. And Neo took that a little bit further with significantly better combat. It's straight out of, you know, an action game, or like an action fighter almost. There's full combos and everything that you can do. And I'm not even good at fighting games. And I picked up on that and recognized what it added. And then it had loot on top of that, like a full-blown, you know, Diablo-style loot system. So that there's even more potential replayability and everything. And then I just like the aesthetic, the whole, you know, sort of samurai setting and everything. It was very cool. Story's a little silly again. It's, you know, fantasy, Warring States, Japan. But I still liked it. This is a weird roundabout. Tell this game's European. There's other things that let you know that it is, but although one of the things that doesn't, I don't see it actually, is there's a volcano in this town for some reason. I mean, I guess maybe like Italy or Greece or something, but it's kind of odd. There's all sorts of foreshadowing in this that the volcano will erupt at some point. But if Souls games are, you know, 3D Metroidvanias, of course I still love Metroidvanias, we played a ton of them. But D-Lit was my favorite. And I know, like I said, I will get flack for picking that over Hollow Knight. And I did really enjoy Hollow Knight. But D-Lit was just, it worked, it clicked with me so fast. It was just beautiful in its simplicity of how it worked. It was hard not to love that game. It looked good, sounded good, played perfectly, and it didn't overstay its welcome. I know a lot of people like to talk about, you know, oh, getting their value for their money with games, you know, they want a game to last a long time. And I certainly understand that. And when I was younger, I felt that more in terms of like, if I'm buying a game, it better, you know, better be a Ubisoft one where I'm gonna be able to collect-a-thon for 100 hours. I would much rather have less hours but more higher quality these days. And I don't know if that's just like a general trend that people feel, or maybe it's something you get as you age, who knows. But quality over quantity for sure. Hades also made the list. It was excellent. We might even revisit that one. So early on, I experimented streaming on Twitch as well, just to see what the differences were, really. I've always intended to go on YouTube from the get-go, but I wanted to stream something on Twitch just to see how that was, and Hades was the game for that. So the VODs of that are here, but they definitely lost even more in the compression. So Twitch supports less high bit rates. Less high... That sounded weird. I know what I meant. Twitch doesn't support as high a bit rate as YouTube does. And then I had to, you know, download the videos because I couldn't get the linking thing to work, and then re-upload them. So they had lost a lot along the way. And it was also early on enough that I'm sure there was other jank and technical difficulties and things. But still, at the end of the day, Hades was just a very good game. Everybody knows about it and has talked about it a ton. So there's not really a whole lot else to say, at least as far as I'm concerned. It's just... It's an action roguelike, and it does everything it needs to incredibly well. And has lots of replayability, too. That's one of those rare games where you are getting quality and quantity. You know, you could easily get 100 hours out of that game, probably even more. And all of it's going to be good, I think. And Neo was that way for me, but I can see that not being a game for everybody. Whereas Hades was accessible enough that I think potentially everybody could, which is why it was so critically acclaimed. And then also on the list was Hedon. It's the boomer shooter that I talked about. It had a lot in common with Thief as well. It's just a winning combo for me. Games that I loved years ago. Seeing that sort of style come back and be done so well was great. I'm glad that there's, you know, a renaissance of old style games, but with modern flair and features. Or in the case of Hedon, with the original engine and everything, the GZ Doom engine that it's built in is just a heavily modified original Doom engine. So to see what people can eke out of games like that is just fascinating to me, and probably another reason why I ranked it so highly. So you can see we're towards the end, so we got our little progress thing here of what we need to do. Clean this bin. Again, British, or at least European in some way. The drums from In the Air tonight. And then last but not least on the list was Yakuza Zero. And I still feel bad about that. That streaming that was just such a mess. I don't know why I had so many technical issues with it. I know some of it was the PC port, some of it's my setup. But I spent almost as many hours as that game is on the channel is how long I spent trying to figure out what was wrong with it and get it working. Which is a shame, because it's such a good game. And it probably wouldn't resonate with everyone, but with enough people that I think it's worth recommending, at least, that people check it out. Just such a fun experience. With the possible exception of the combat, it did get a little samey. It's fun and flashy, but there's a lot of it, and at a certain point, it stops getting anything new. So, again, it suffered a little bit from being played in the same year as as Neo. It also suffered from being as long as it was. I touched on this too, that streaming part-time, you have to kind of be smart about what you're going to stream and when. So a game like Yakuza that's potentially, 100 hours is a hard sell. Still good though. And then of the band's picks, of course, Terraria, excellent. I can't speak too much on Ratchet and Clank, I haven't played it. But Deep Rock, great. Genshin, very good. And I know, yeah, oh, JD, it's a gacha game. It's still fun. I shrugged like you could see it. I could. I don't know if I've touched on that before, the fact that we don't use face cam. Part of it is I feel like weirdly uncomfortable about it, which is odd given that like perform in public and do a lot of things like that. It feels different on the internet somehow, and especially because everything is backed up, whereas like with a public performance, we'll do another map, a smaller one though. It gives you a nice little recap there. But, do vehicle. Grandpa Miller's car. But yeah, with like a public performance, people might record part of it, or, take videos and things like that. But it's not potentially out there forever. Whereas with stuff on the internet, if I say or do something dumb in a stream with face cam on, that can potentially haunt you forever. And it's a little bit harder to excuse, I think, as well. Let's start at the top. What am I doing? Like, if you're doing a performance, like a concert, there's a little bit different expectation of, like, the amount of energy and things, and the potential for what you could, the amount of a fool that you could make yourself, I guess. And people might, have some more leeway on you. Where it's like, oh man, JD he was really drunk during that song, or, man, that was a terrible take he had on, that whatever opinion. Like, you might get a little bit more of a pass. But with a stream and like face cam and stuff, it's very easy for things to get very quickly taken out of context and disseminated and changed on you. So just something that I'm cognizant of, I guess. Cleaning the cars is always a little tricky because you have to get in there with like the wheel wells and stuff. But yeah, as far as the future though, talked a lot about last year and just sort of my general rambling thoughts. We want to keep this up. Although potentially go for more quality over quantity. Take a little bit more time and improve some other things. Maybe start thinking about overlays and all that. Maybe do look into the VTuber model, who knows? Maybe figure out how to do that myself. I have terrible art skills, if that wasn't obvious from the few times we've played art games. But maybe take the time to brush up on that. I'm not super crazy about overlays and like stream elements and all those like busy things. I understand why people use them, and I think they can be used very well. But I think a lot of times they're just distracting. And again, that's totally my opinion. Like I said, I totally get it. But I don't want to fall down that rabbit hole of getting, you know, a ton of stuff that potentially detracts from, you know, the gameplay or me, or, you know, not that I'm like, oh man, so interesting, but you know what I mean. I know what I mean. Look at that. Oh, there's character customization too. I don't have any of that. Because once you finish the campaign, I don't know if there's any other way to get money. So I don't have enough to get customization. Which is just odd, but... the monster truck might take a while. I know the RV took a while too. I'm trying to think what would be a good one. We'll do the RV. You know you're in trouble when they give you that. But yeah, going forward, and I want to improve more things with the stream. You know, getting the new mic and the VR headset and stuff were nice steps in terms of tech. And outside of that, just the amount that I streamed, I've gotten more comfortable and confident with it. And that's a nice step as well. But now there's other things that could and should be done. You know, try to reach out as much as possible to other streamers and try to get some connections and collaborations and things that way. Again, I know that time is a big factor there, and I don't want to feel like I'm wasting anyone else's time. You know, if I waste mine, that's on me. But so there's some considerations to be made there, but something that I would like to look forward to. And I mentioned as well that Malignant Bear is a band, so we have other members of the band that I can collaborate with and do things with, and have taken advantage of that fact. So it hasn't seemed as urgent to, you know, go out and sit in other streams and do that. I also feel weird about, I guess, networking, just in general, but the whole thing of like, yo, bro, if I sit in your stream, then will you sit in mine and tell your people too and all that? And I get that that's, you know, a thing that people do, and it helps for sure, and it helps in the professional world as well. But there's just something kind of disingenuous about it, if I'm completely honest. Like, yeah, everybody benefits, but I remember these things being kind of a pain to clean. Actually, we want Stubby. Come on. Ooh, got it. Okay. There's some up front too. But yeah, I mean, maybe that's just me. I might just be overthinking it. But again, the time aspect does come into it as well. If I take the time to do, you know, the cliched streamer networking, where, you know, sit in streams and you make friends and do all that, like, that cuts into other things that I like to do and need to do in my time, plus into my own streaming time, which is already a limited thing. Again, makes sense for people that are going at this full time. But for a part-timer, it's a little harder to pull off. And you do have to then really consider how you spend that time. Just things to consider. Also things to consider is what games we're going to play this year. So there's quite a few that I'm very interested in that are coming out. There's lots of things that got pushed back for real-life reasons are now making their way to release. And there's a lot in a short period of time. The big two to start the year is, of course, Elden Ring and Total War Warhammer 3. We're absolutely going to play those on stream a lot. Go there. I'm firmly in camp. You know, don't pre-order games, but I might break that for those two. I trust Creative Assembly with Total War at this point, because even with their hiccups with like Rome, when that came out, Rome 2, they still fixed it pretty quickly, and they haven't had any issues with the Total War ones. So. Elden Ring I'm actually slightly more suspicious of. I know it got, you know, rave reviews from the little preview weekend that they had, but still slightly skeptical. And at least with that one, you don't get anything for pre-ordering, whereas like with Total War, you get one of the DLCs for free, so there's a little bit more incentive there. You know, it's DLC for free that I would get anyways, so... And we still have plenty of other games to go through. Lots in the backlog. Still. I mentioned in the recap video, I made significantly more thumbnails than we played games. And partly, some of that was like multiple thumbnails for games that we did play, like to just have just in case I didn't like them, or you know, just because I had some ideas and then changed my mind. But a lot of those are for games that we have lined up and ready to go. And of course, there's more stuff coming out all the time. We did a schedule for a while, and we still have an internal schedule, but we don't post it publicly just because I like having the freedom to change things up. So if something comes out that I'm really interested in, you know, out of the blue, or has a big update, or someone asks me about, I like having the freedom to just immediately pivot to that rather than feeling like I've screwed up by not adhering to the schedule. Which is silly because it was my schedule, my idea anyways. But I don't know, maybe just letting myself down, who knows. But yeah, we do still have things scheduled internally. That is absolutely a thing, but it's... I feel less bad about breaking from it because it's not published. There's still lots of planning though that goes into this. And it might not seem like it, but especially with how just meandering this stream is, goodness gracious, how you could watch this and be like, yeah, Malignant Bear, they've got it together. But I assure you, my rambling aside, there is thought put into these things. And I mean, maybe me talking through some of these things might explain that a little bit as well. but I just thought it was interesting and maybe a good idea to do a stream like this where I can just put some of my thoughts into words as to what we've done and why. So it might not be super interesting, but I thought it was still important. Got an excuse to clean more things, too. Getting close to the end of video, of sessions. This album, it's only an hour and a half long. Only. But, it's quite good. A lot of different artists on there. To try to credit all of them would have been a little absurd. They mentioned that you know, that they prefer if you do, which I think is very good, and I agree. But video descriptions can only be so long, and considering we're using the entire album, I did take the lazy way and just link directly to it. But hats off to all the people who contributed to that. Sometimes you can see little things in the dirt in this game. We pretty much didn't use any other attachments or anything, and you really don't need to. The 15-degree nozzle is the best. It gives you, I think, the best combination of area and pressure still. Because if you have too low pressure, you have to go over things multiple times. So you gotta balance that. Lots of things are a balancing act. That's the theme of this stream. Of this water stream. But yeah, we're gonna keep doing this. Not this game in particular. It's, I mean, maybe we might if I do multiplayer with the band member who stole some of my free time by suggesting this, knowing full well that I would get addicted to it. Might force him to play. Yeah, maybe a little later on streams to start the year off with, just because of some scheduling things that I have outside of this. But if it gets to be too late, like I said, I have video content ready to go. Let's maybe do that. So even though we're not like striving for, you know, monetization or anything, as I mentioned very early on in this rambling, we're not striving for that, but it is still important to not have your channel go like completely quiet for too long. It can look bad, not just to, you know, YouTube's almighty algorithm, but to any fans and viewers you have, which is a little silly, I think, because obviously, you know, life happens at times, but I get it too, you know. There's a lot of potential ways that you can spend your free time. So if you're going to watch a content creator, you want to watch one that is dedicated. Dedicated to cleaning this RV. So dedicated. So I need bumper, spare wheel, one of the windows, and one of the windscreens even. That's interesting. Sworn I... Oh, that's the window. Gotta be the back bumper then. Yep. Spare wheel and tire. So your nozzle length also matters with like how close you can get to things. What's that? This window's still dirty? Okay. And the tire. Tires are the bane of my existence in some of these cars. The monster truck in particular was terrible. The tires were just so big and they were so dirty. Look at that. Alright, we'll do one more. So since it's free play, you can just keep going whenever you want to. Restart your jobs. So sometimes you get really small and easy ones like this. But yeah, I know the title of this stream is Clean New Year. It was, you know, partly just a pun on this game. We want to improve, we want to get cleaner and better, for sure. But we also want to continue some of what we're doing. I touched on thumbnails in the early recap, but I want to mention that again. That I know the thumbnails are not ideal. Any, you know, streamer advice thing is like they should be, you know, X, Y, and Z and follow all these things and all that. But I don't know. I like the ones that we do. They're fun and silly, which is the whole point of this. It's just supposed to be fun. I would rather have my goofy, crappy thumbnails that I think are enjoyable than terrible clickbaity ones. Which is, again, the whole point of this. I enjoy it, and I'm hoping other people enjoy what I'm doing and what the band is doing. I think that's the way to do it. Don't go into your hobby to get something else out of it. And I've mentioned that before, and I touched on that in this video as well. That, you know, there's value in just doing things for fun or enjoyment. Of course, you need to get paid at some point in something that you do. But not everything has to be a side hustle for money. Take some time. Enjoy something just for the sake of enjoying it. Like this game. Like power washing. Yeah, you can totally power wash as a job. Sometimes you need to power wash things. But make sure you have some fun with it too. That's really all there is to it. We hope you're having fun watching our content, that you're enjoying this video, whether you were here live or you watch the VOD in the future. Again, I know this is kind of a rambling mess, but that was the point of it. That was what I wanted to do in this. So we'll be back later this week with something else. Got a couple things potentially planned. We'll see what I decide on. I'm gonna fall off this bike. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this. And we appreciate your viewership, as always. And until next time, have a good one. Forgot that there was BGM and then BGM on this slide. I need to add more buttons to my stream deck. There's like one page of it right now, and I should have more. It is cool though. Anyway, no more rambling. Until next time.